I'm Carissa Gagliardi, and I'm here with Joe Marone from World Leaders. And Joe, we're just going to get right into it. You're offering a service called Fractional Sales Management. Tell us about that. What is fractional sales management and why is it needed?
Sure. Let's start off with the term fractional sales management. It's a less wordy way to describe three critical things. One is part-time sales management combined with sales process improvement, and then also coaching and training the sales team. So when you integrate those three things together, you have fractional sales management.
How does a team know if they need a fractional sales manager? What scenarios do you see?
Sure. Let's start off with the first one. They're just not performing at the level that management thinks about it. They're not bringing in the money, so they're not as successful as they need to be. So there's one indicator of what's needed. The second thing is what I'll call time, and that is when the person leading the sales team, and sometimes that's a CEO or a sales manager, or sometimes it's not even defined, when that person just doesn't have the time to manage the team to its best, right? They don't have time to develop the sales team to the highest and best use of their resources. So when you look at span of control, generally you've got a span of control of a leader that's maybe 10 at most, probably 8 is the recommended number. So when that gets beyond that span of control, they just don't have the time to do it effectively. That's number 2. And number 3 is the most common one, is they just don't have sales management skills. They don't have the ability, the proven ability to properly coach and mentor a competitive sales team. They haven't done that. Maybe they've been an engineer or they've been a CEO, but they haven't been focused. It's not their thing. So why try to do it if that's not what they do well?
So you're looking at time, you're looking at size of team, you're looking at skills that you have, probably budget. Does it make sense to pay someone internally for this full time? All those things you're considering when you're trying to decide, should you outsource the sales management function, at least temporarily?
That's right, Chris. And you know what? Let's go back to that last one that you pointed out, budget. Many times as a team grows over time, they're in this what we call the tweener or the in-between scenario, where they're big enough that they need the help, but they're not big enough to afford a 6-figure salary that a good sales manager brings in. And God forbid you bring in a bad sales manager. That's better no sales manager than a bad one. So they don't have the time to bring in someone good enough, but they need the help. Using a fractional or a part-time or an interim sales manager makes very, very good sense at that time.
Right. Can I share with you something that we wrote about, what the business objective is with fractional sales management?
That's right. We co-wrote this together.
So the business return that you're really looking for when you outsource that sales management function is you're looking to develop each sales team member to their highest individual potential, while simultaneously increasing the company's top line revenue. Yeah. Then there's that second piece of it. We want to also implement high performance methodologies within the sales and sales management function. And overall, that end state is develop a high-performing sales team that is self-sustaining and operates at the lowest possible total cost of sales. That's
right. We want to leave it in a better place than we found it, right? So the idea, like all good things, they must end. At the end of the engagement, right, that team should be operating its highest capabilities, winning deals, measurable higher revenue, and at the lowest possible cost, because they're efficient and effective. And therefore, it may be able to be, instead of led, it may be supported by a sales operations assistant or manager, which is a lower cost, more supportive resource. So there's a way there to move an organization and make it effective. So good points.
Great. Let's get into even further what's involved with fractional sales management day to day, the scope of all the areas that you cover with this service. I'm going to go down and list them, and then we can go into detail. So first, we're looking to define the sales process, then lead, coach, and train the sales team, developing deal and account specific selling strategies, providing accountability management, and then lastly, working with marketing to deliver more leads. Did I capture it all?
Got it. Exactly. In that order too, if you think about it. So great.
Yeah, let's go back to defining your sales process. Why is that important?
Well, you know, we wrote the book, The Smart Sales Methods, and it explains it perfectly there. It's the entire process that a salesperson uses from the first hello to a closed PO. And that means creating the right recommendations to the right decision makers to develop the business case from which to drive the sales cycle on. Number two is to perform discovery with the customer to make sure that we're lining the solution effectively. And simply number three is proposing and closing effectively and winning the business. We say survey, assess, align. Simple deal flow process that the sales reps have to have. Now, once we go into closing, we know that there's going to be a stall, there's going to be a competition, and there's going to be a price negotiation. Some call that objections. But if they happen all the time, why don't we proceduralize it and not be surprised with it? So getting the survey, assess, align positions together, you know, based on the smart sales methods is the first step. So you've got a proceduralized high performance sales team as the foundation. What are your thoughts on that, Chris? I know that you were very instrumental over the last 6 or 7 years with that.
Well,
what did I miss?
I think you outlined, high level the process pretty well there. I wonder how many organizations have a sales process defined like that.
Yeah. So we know, right, that it tends to be something around 1%, right?
Wow.
So roughly, if you look at there's roughly 265,000 companies that are either in high technology or advanced manufacturing in the United States today, right? And of those, only 1% of them have a selling process that's client facing, that's optimized. So we know that's important. We know just doing that, right? The years that you and I have worked together in implementing smart sales methods with customers over time, right? We've done it over 400 customers now, that we know that works. We know it's the foundation.
And it takes a very specific skill set to have someone come in and build that process for your team. Someone that can be that strategic, right, to define a sales process, and also tactical enough to work with the team day to day on deals.
Yeah, and work and work and be affordable, right? You can't have the author of a 5-star Amazon book managing your sales team day to day. It's just too expensive. But using that person fractionally for a period of time to implement methods and take through all those bullet points, that makes good sense.
Let's go to, the next one, leading, coaching, and training the sales team. What's involved in that, and how often does that happen?
Sure. So let's talk about leading first. That means being able to motivate and plan with the sales team, right? On a daily or every other day basis. So getting the team together and leading them and understanding that you're going to have people in different areas of maturity and different areas within their sales cycles. Some of them are going to be proactive and ready to make sales. Some of them are in the process of having conversations with customers, and some of them are stuck in customer service things or really not there. So leading and motivating the team is always number one, and it takes a special skill set. And then coaching is the technical part of it. It's pre-client call, or let's say pre-call planning, on-call support, and post-call debriefing to make sure that we're ensuring that salesperson is having the right conversations with the right customers. What did I miss there, Carissa?
Training.
Sure, training. Because here, let's have a little fun with this, right? Let's say whoever's watching this video, over the next couple of days, listen to your sales reps, talk to your customer. Are they positioning? Are they making a good recommendation? Are they talking to the real decision makers? Are they creating business cases? What do the proposals look like? Are they asking for the sale? Are they handling the objections or the negotiations? When you see those gaps, those are gaps for training. And that's why we say leading, coaching, and then training, because you have to train what you don't see there, right? So you want to train and create that world leader.
Right, and all audited against that sales process that you went in and put in the beginning.
That's right. We want to coach them and manage them and lead them through the survey, assess, align sales process. Wonderfully.
Makes good sense. How about developing deal and account specific selling strategies?
Sure. So when we think about deal and account specific, let's start with the easier one, right? Being able to get the sales rep to upsell, cross-sell, and resell in your existing accounts is a simple way to get more revenue and more success at the easiest approach, right? The easiest customer to sell is the one you've already sold. Yet few really have a strategic approach to upsell, cross-sell, reselling, or we call it MAP, major account penetration. Also knowing what accounts to divest. There's greater than 25% of the accounts in most organizations they should not be working with, and being able to strategically divest those accounts. So understanding what to do with our existing accounts is the first and easiest way. But also, what is the win strategy in a new pursuit when we're working with a new customer, right? What are the things that we're going to do so that the customer buys from us instead of our competitor? What is the selling strategy? That's the whole idea there.
So really getting down to that deal level then, does the fractional sales manager actually get on the calls with customers and the reps?
Oh yeah. And now with virtual selling, it's easy to do, right? It's acceptable. So I can work with and do work with a sales rep that might be in one state with a customer that might be in another country. And I'm working from headquarters here, but I'm on the call with my sales team, my fractional sales team, and their customer. And I know when I should be leading, I know when I should be following, and eventually when to get out of the way. So I'm working through that process. And that's a very effective way, again, to get some quick, closest to close deals won quickly, and also to get some good behaviors happening. But yeah, absolutely, working right with the customer and the sales team. That's where it's the most fun, right? Hey, it's the difference between being a spectator and being in the game.
Absolutely, that real deal opportunity management. Very nice.
Yeah.
What about providing accountability management?
So you being a millennial, let's talk about it together, right? The first thing we see in accountability management is either that it's under or overutilized, right? Underutilized is when, there's no accountability to a goal. Sometimes there's not even sales quotas, and there's no holding of accountability measurables to get there, right? So that's one scenario, but that isn't the biggest problem, right? The biggest problem is overuse of accountability, where the team, there's no process in place, there's no training in place, there's no strategy in place, yet we're going to hold accountability to the sales team, right? That's, if you remember the term, the beatings will continue until morale improves. It can't be done. That's why we see turnover so high in this industry, and that's why our millennials don't want to get into it, right? They need to be developed, and being able to know when and how to utilize accountability is the most important thing.
Right, especially for when you're dealing with those underperformers and holding them to their plan for themselves to improve.
Sure. And the idea is that we want to hire for attitude and follow through. Really good attitude and good follow through. We want to bring that to the table. We want to hire for that. We don't have to manage that every day. We want to have that on the sales team. We actually want to have a sales team that wants to sell, right? That's the idea of building good culture in there. Can I show it?
Sure, please.
You know, we want to have a sales team, that wants to win the belt, right? That actually feels and enjoys selling because they want to be great salespeople. That's the culture that you want to infuse when we're working with sales teams, right? We want world leaders.
Yep. And then the skills, those are teachable, and those can be worked on over time. But attitude and follow through, if you're trying to manage those, you're in a tough situation.
You bet. You bet. And what's interesting is this breaks all rules, but the data supports it. The best salespeople out there are the ones that come from the technical ranks. Now I'm just saying that we're talking about B2B technology sales, particularly in the high technology or advanced manufacturing. The best out there are the technical people that we put out there because they know what they're talking about. When we give them a process, they're process oriented. When we coach them, we motivate them, we value them, and we get them to want to do better. Those are the superheroes. Those are the world leaders. So the idea, it takes a special talent to manage those folks.
Absolutely. Let's get to the last piece here. Working with marketing to deliver more leads.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Marketing tends to be, when you've got an underdeveloped marketing team, it tends to be this person or a few people that not everyone is sure what they do, right? They write website content, they build brochures, they do some blogging, but you can't measure it and you don't really know it's effective or not, but we know everyone has to have it now. And so it's there. But the idea is to work with marketing to teach them how to deliver true top of funnel leads. And a good lead or a top of funnel lead, a real lead, is when they're working with a real decision maker. There's a business case and they need to do something now. Getting marketing and teaching marketing how to deliver that to the sales team is just an incredible advantage. It helps the marketing people feel more valued. It brings more top line revenue to the organization. And it takes a huge burden off the sales team to be supplemented with leads. I don't know, in case people haven't noticed yet, salespeople are not cold calling like they used to. So getting marketing to bring in leads to supplement the prospecting is a very effective piece. And it tends to be later in the process.
Yeah, it sounds like fractional sales management crosses into that marketing function and integrates marketing and sales in organizations too.
Yeah, you bet. It integrates them. That term is very purposeful.
Well, great, Joe. You've done such a nice job of describing the fractional sales management function. So my last question for you is, what makes you good at it? What makes you qualified and credible to provide fractional sales management to the teams in need out there?
Because it's my life. It's what I've been doing the last 30 years, 117,000 hours every day, day and night, weekend, all the way through this process. The studying of, in a business to business technology environment, what makes team. I started off with what makes people successful, but that's not true. It's what makes teams successful. And what I've learned over the years gives me the foundational knowledge of how to coach and how to work through things. My track record, I've worked with over 400 companies now, but my foundation before that, I took a technology company of 24 million and took it to $1 billion internationally, 60 offices. I just do that work very well. It's one of the only things that I do very well, but I do it well. And I love to do it. But I think also just the idea that when I look at salespeople, there's very few resources that are legitimate that help them and truly understand their world, right? When I say to that salesperson, nothing happens till something is sold and you're responsible for it, and that's what you bring to the company, it's a badge of honor. And when I restore that pride and I explain to them how important it is in ethical sales to help the B2B technology companies bring the products to our world that better our world, and that they're important for driving evolution, to driving mankind, they understand that I really mean that, and that it's important to me personally, it's important to them, but what they do is important to the world, to the country, to our world. And that level of working with them through the experience, the accomplishments, and just the care and the enjoyment makes me a very, very good fractional sales manager.
Well, yeah, it sounds like, the CEOs that you'd be working with, they love their product, they love their company, they love, their customers, and you really love salespeople. So that sounds like a nice match.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you've got to have both and synergy between the both. And that's why fractional sales management is a really good idea in some circumstances.
Well, appreciate your time today walking us through it, Joe. We'll catch up with you next time. Thank you.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Carissa.